Nice.
Wake up, something isn't right. Everybody sleepwalks through another night. Laugh tracks in the distance, sirens in our heads. Everybody says you're crazy when you don't believe what's fed. This is the Psych Ward. This is the show. Everybody trapped here, nobody knows. This is the Psych Ward. Open up your eyes. Everything around you should have made you realize. Should have made you realize.
Welcome to the Psych Ward. I'm your host, Drake, and contrary to popular belief, just because I'm wearing this doesn't make me a psychic, okay? So just wanted to put out that disclaimer. I can't read your mind. Anyway, what is the Psych Ward? Well, we are all living in a crazy time. Think about it. Think about this. We live in a world that is run by billionaires, or perhaps by people we don't even see, but the front men are the billionaires who are engaged in some of the most vile acts that you can engage in. And we're okay with that. Like even if they're not running the show, let's say, they're promoted and presented as this is the thing to aspire to. And that makes no sense. I'll show you what I mean. This is from PS, a list of powerful men named in the Epstein files, from Elon Musk to former Prince Andrew. Okay, so let's see here. Andrew Windsor, Mountbatten Windsor, I guess, formerly known as Britain's Prince Andrew. He's named in the Epstein files. Sarah Ferguson, which is the Duchess of York. So this is also royalty, right? Elon Musk, named in the files. Richard Branson. Oh, man. Richard Branson. I thought that guy was cool. Donald Trump. And I'm not saying that all these people that are named per se have done whatever acts we're assuming from the Epstein files, but they're all part of the same network, right? Donald Trump, right? Bill Clinton, Steve Tisch. Let's see. New York Giants co-owner. Oh, owns a football team. There you go. Casey Wasserman. I don't know who that is. President of the committee for the 2028 Summer Olympics in LA. Wow. Okay. Ehud Barak. This is former Israeli prime minister. Larry Summers, Clinton's former secretary of the Treasury and one-time president of Harvard University. Oh, wow. Howard Lutnick. Hey, this guy's Donald Trump's commerce secretary. There it is. Sergey Brin. Oh, Google co-founder. Billionaire. Steve Bannon. We've seen that guy's name thrown around. Donald Trump. Miroslav Lajčák. I don't know who that is. National security advisor to the Slovakian prime minister. And he resigned after his past communications with Epstein appeared in a document release. Oh, crap. I guess that's all they're giving us. I know there are more names. I know. Why wasn't Bill Gates mentioned in this? They're like, hey, we can't put him out like that. They only mentioned like a small handful here, you know? And I'm just sharing that because, okay, these are people in prominent positions. They didn't even get to like everyone, but one of these guys is the president of the United States. One was a former prime prime minister. There's plenty of others. I know there's hundreds and hundreds of names in there that they don't want to release all of them, or they only want to release some. You got the guy who's the head or the founder of Victoria's Secret. Of what's the other one? The one that's more for kids that was at the malls. Man, what is that called? I didn't shop there. I don't know if it was Hollister or maybe it was Hollister. I don't know. We'll go with that. Hollister. I don't shop there. Or maybe it was American Apparel, or I don't know. I don't know, but he owns those companies. You know what I mean? And it's just, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, so why would we continue to go along with a system that allows for people like that to make it to the top and seemingly escape from law, from the legal system? No one except for Epstein himself and Ghislaine Maxwell, they're the only two who have been arrested and charged and had prison sentences. Everyone else, everyone who are perhaps the clients of these two, seems to be able to just have their name printed in the media and kind of get like a little slap on the wrist, like, oh, you bad dog. But then they're off doing whatever. Like, well, let me see. Is Prince Andrew arrested? Question mark. Was arrested February 19th, 2026 on his 66th birthday. Okay. And was later released and denies all wrongdoing. Okay. So he's not arrested anymore. That's great. This is what I'm talking about. Why would we accept a system that says, you know what, if you've got money, you can do whatever you want? Doesn't that tell us there's something fundamentally wrong with the system? That means that nothing else matters except that you have money. That's it. Just you having money is enough. That's good. Great job. You got money. You did it. You made it. You can escape everything else as long as you have money. And if you don't have money, that is the real crime. That's the crime. The crime is you don't have money. If you did other crimes, but you have money, you really haven't done any crimes, really, actually. That's not a crime to have money. Huh. Whatever you have to do this is what our system says. Whatever you have to do in the getting of money, in making that money, whatever you've got to do to make that happen, it is perfectly okay. As long as you get the money. But if you don't get money, anything that you do, literally anything that you do, you could be taking food, stealing food for survival. That is a crime, and you will be punished for it. You know what I'm saying? Isn't that crazy? There are people who live on this planet today by the millions that starve and die because they don't have access to resources that we take for granted in developed countries. And the reason why these other countries are not developed, underdeveloped, is on purpose, so that they won't be able to say, well, okay, as an example, I know I'm kind of all over the place here. I'm just setting the scene, because To me, it is absolute insanity that we live in a world where about 20,000 people per day die because they don't have either the nutrients, the food, like just enough food in general to sustain their bodies, or the nutrients, like the food that would be healthy for them, the sanitary living conditions. They're dying because they don't have access to clean drinking water. They're dying because they don't have access to water where they can bathe themselves and not catch some disease. They don't have access to a system where they can eliminate, their bodily fluids and it not be in the same place where they're eating and sleeping. And that to me is like, these should be really basic things that every human has access to. Dignity of life, honestly. And we don't have that. That is insanity to me because we have the resources on this planet. We throw away billions of pounds of food just in this country alone. And only because if we were to keep that food from being thrown away and actually use it and give it to people who are in need, that would not be profitable. And you see how this all ties back to money? That to me is insanity. And then we want to claim, as humanity, as society, even as individuals, we want to claim that we want everyone to have a good life. We want to give to others what we would want to be done to us, but we're not actually living that. We're all living under the rules of this psychotic, psycho society. And that's why I say this is the psych ward. We are in the psych ward. Welcome. If you didn't know, you live in a psych ward. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Maybe it's too much if I say you, but can you imagine if a mother, a woman, was in an insane asylum and she was insane just as everyone else in this insane asylum? Okay. And she somehow gets pregnant in this insane asylum and somehow is able to carry the baby to term. Okay. And that baby, she gives birth to this baby and she raises this baby in the insane asylum. Everything that baby is taught is from the lens and view and perspective of she's surrounded by, or he is surrounded by, insanity that is not anything out of the ordinary to this baby because the baby doesn't know anything different, right? So the baby is growing up with insanity as normality. That's just normal. So why would the baby question the insane things going around in their environment? Oh yeah, there's Joe over there. He just likes to bang his head against the wall every 2 minutes. Oh, and there's Susie over there. She's just gonna. Oh, she's doing it in her hand and she's throwing it at people again. Oh boy. Oh no. Right? Like that's just. It's normal. It's normal. Oh, and there's Frank. Oh, Frank always loses his top. He always gets really loud and angry and shouts at everybody. But that's just Frank, it just is what it is. Okay. Right. And oh, yeah, all these people are just talking to themselves and pretending that there's other people there. They're running around, they're acting insane. But to that baby, that's all normal stuff. That's just nothing of that seems weird or out of the ordinary. Now, they may not like it. They may not like it and they may complain, but that's just kind of what they grew up with. Now, imagine if in this insane asylum, there were many women getting pregnant and having children, and these children are being raised in this insane asylum and all seeing this insanity as normal. And so they adapt they adopt rather the habits of all these insane people around them. Isn't that what would naturally happen? They would adopt the habits of the insane people around them. And then they're just kind of like, well, I guess this is normal. So they may not be mentally ill from the perspective of like, it's not a chemical imbalance, but they would be mentally ill by all intents and purposes if you were to remove them from that environment and put them, let's say, out, in a normal town. Everybody would see that person as that person's mentally ill, but they're just acting out what they saw displayed in front of them. And what I'm trying to say is, like, that's all of us. We're all mentally ill. We're all in that position right now where we've grown up in an insane asylum, and we've seen, well, this is how people act. This is what you got to do to make money. This is just normal. Hey, well, no, you can't help those people over there. That's not profitable. Doesn't make sense. Of course not. No, and just let them starve. I know it's really sad. It's terrible. Nobody likes it, but it's normal. It's okay. That's just the way the world works. And nobody does anything about it. That's insanity. That's insane. So what I'm trying to say is we're all in a psych ward. In an insane asylum. We're all in a psych ward. And the only way that we can get out, because we're trapped in here with a bunch of psychos. There are some really sick people in this world. You know that. It doesn't take a great imagination to realize that there are some very sick people in this world, and it's normal. And they are not in an insane asylum in relation to all of us. They're not in jail. They're not separated out from the general population, is what I'm trying to say. And we're intermingled with all of them. That should tell you that we are in a psych ward. And the only way that we can get out, or to prove that we're not in a psych ward, here's my thesis, here's what I'm positing. We're all in a psych ward. You listening to me right now, we are in a psych ward. The only way that you can prove that you're not in a psych ward is basically prove you're not psycho. You have to prove you're not psycho. Now, think about this, right? Because generally, if you were placed into a psych ward, into an insane asylum, and you had to prove to the doctor you're not insane, they actually did an experiment like this. Let me see if I can find it. Experiment to prove not insane, I'm going to say. Let's see what I have here. Rosenhan experiment. Let me share what I got. Okay, so the Rosenhan experiment, or thud experiment, was a disputed study regarding the validity of psychiatric diagnosis. For the experiment, participants submitted themselves for evaluation at various psychiatric institutions and feigned hallucinations in order to be accepted, but acted normally from then onward. Each was diagnosed with a psychiatric disorder and given antipsychotic medication. The study was arranged by psychologist David Rosenhan, a Stanford University professor, and published by the journal Science in 1973 with the title on Being Sane in Insane Places. Anyway, let me see. While listening to a lecture by Ronald Lang, a psychiatrist associated with anti-psychiatry claims, Rosenhan conceived of the experiment as a way to test the reliability of psychiatric diagnosis. The study concluded it is clear that we cannot distinguish the sane from the insane in psychiatric hospitals, and also illustrated the dangers of dehumanization and suggestion in psychiatric institutions. It suggests that the use of community mental health facilities, which concentrated on specific problems and behaviors rather than psychiatric terminology, might be a solution, and recommended education to make psychiatric workers more aware of the social psychology of their facilities. All right, so basically, the patients claim to hear voices, um, and then actually they claim to hear voices of the same sex as the patient, which were often unclear, but which seem to pronounce the words empty, hollow, or thud, and nothing else. That's funny. I hear voices. It's a male voice. It sounds like empty, hollow, thud. That's it. That's all I hear. I hear my own voice in my head sometimes, and it tells me I'm empty. um. Anyway, these words were chosen as they vaguely suggest some sort of existential crisis and the lack of any published literature referencing them as psychotic symptoms. Oh, that's smart. If admitted, the pseudo patients were instructed to act normally, reporting that they felt fine and no longer heard voices. Hospital records obtained after the experiment indicate that all pseudo patients were characterized as friendly and cooperative by staff. I'm remembering this experiment, and I remember when he first published this experiment or announced that this experiment was happening, one of the hospitals said, okay, well, send us your patients. We'll be able to figure out who's who. And I remember that one of the hospitals said, okay, we figured out you sent us this many patients that were actually sane. And I remember he said, actually, I sent you none, no patients at all, which is pretty interesting. But I guess what this is showing is once you're in, it is very difficult because there's like, you got to convince somebody that you're not psycho, you're not crazy, you're not having some mental illness. So back to what I'm saying, as far as we are in a psych ward right now, and you have to prove that you're not actually psycho. And until you can prove that, you're stuck in the psych ward. And we can't get out. So the thing is, we'll never be able to exit the psych ward until, well, no one's going to let us out. Let me just say it like that. No one's going to let you out. You're not allowed out. No one's going to let you out because there's nobody on the outside to let you out. How's that? You cannot exit the psych ward by asking or convincing somebody, proving to some psychologist out there or some entity that's on the outside, by being really good, by showing them, see, I followed all the directions. I walked the line just exactly like you said. That is not going to allow you to exit the psych ward because there's nobody outside to say, oh, yeah, you're a good kid. Let me let you out. So the only way out then is not by speaking to someone or speaking to some psycho warden who's keeping us all in here, but by overcoming your psychosis. And yeah, I'm saying you're just straight up psycho because, again, going back to that story, you were raised in an environment where psychos rule. And perhaps your parents were not as psycho, but you're still in that environment, right? And so the only way out is to overcome whatever mental illness that you have, which is really tough. Think about it from the perspective of somebody who was born in an insane asylum. They have to then go, okay, I have to assess for myself what makes sense and what doesn't. Us acting in this way, or if I pick up the habits of Frank, which I have, where I just blow up on everyone, how does that help anything? How is this good for the person that I'm speaking to? How is this good for me? It's not, but it's normal. Maybe I should stop doing that. So you have to assess what makes sense to continue doing and what doesn't make sense. Should I use the bathroom on my hand, or should I go to a facility and use this round toilet bowl thing? you know, like, oh yeah, that makes more sense because then I don't have to clean up I don't have to clean up on me, and I don't have to, other people don't have to clean up what I've thrown on them, you know? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should consider that. So the only way out is really by overcoming that mental illness, and that's not necessarily an easy task. But the alternative is you're stuck in an insane asylum, in a psych ward with all these real psychos, actually. And let me ask you a question. Do you think if it's locked, and the only way that you can prove you're not or get out is by overcoming your mental illness, overcoming your psychosis, then do you think you can get out on your own? Or do you think you might need some help? Right? Like, of course, you're not going to be able to escape on your own. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Even if you could, I mean, how are you going to grow food all on your own? Take care of yourself, your children all on your own. Like, no, it's not going to work. We have actually a really beautiful place that we're living in, as far as the world, the earth. It is beautiful. There are so many cool structures that we've built that are useful, that are effective. Imagine having to start all over from scratch, all over from the Middle Ages, and you might think that sounds cool, or even going further back, to ancient times, to caveman times. You might think that sounds cool, but that would be very tough. Like, you would literally be in survival every single day because you'd have to hunt and kill and cook what you eat every single day, and you wouldn't have time for anything else. Plus, add on top of that all the sort of mental stresses that everyone participates, like relationship stresses, things like that everyone participates in already, on top of trying to survive. So we're not going to exit the psych ward on our own, which presents a challenge because we have to get other people in this psych ward to also overcome their psychosis. We have to get everyone in the psych ward to overcome their psychosis, to turn it into like an oasis, a beautiful place, a resort. It could be an actual resort if there weren't psychos in here. But we're all participating in it's just how it is. So if we would actually like to exit the psych ward, we have to support other people to overcome their psychosis, their mental illness. But the question is, would you rather stay in the psych ward and not support anyone else to overcome their psychosis, because that's scary, perhaps, but then you're dealing with psychos? Or would you rather support others as a group, get together with a group, support others to overcome their mental illness so that we can all live in harmony? Doesn't that sound like the better option? Like, that's what I'm interested in. So if you'd like to exit the psych ward, we on the extraction team, because we're already we've already got this plan in motion, right? We meet regularly every Friday to coordinate exactly what that looks like. We're already taking action. We're coordinating our efforts. And if you want to be a part of that, you can find me on Instagram. My link is in the description, right? My handle's in the description. You can send me a DM and join us on what we call our Friday night hangout. Every Friday we do this at 6 p.m. Eastern. We hang out, we talk about real things that matter, and then we support ourselves, support each other to improve our lives, And just to name a few things, we have so many people in there who have either become parents or have already been parents that completely changed the way that they would have parented or the way that they were parenting in a way that really supports their children immensely to be smarter, to be happier, to enjoy life more, and to be prepared for the craziness that's in this world in a way where they don't have to go crazy to fit in, but rather they can direct things more effectively. They can be the ones who are more in control of what's happening, right? That's just a small little snippet. People have gotten better relationships, improved their relationships. They've made more money, started businesses, things like that. These are all things that are necessary as we grow and as we are preparing ourselves to change this psychosis into an oasis, into a resort, right? Not the psychosis itself. We're removing the psychosis. We're removing the mental illness so that we're not turning everywhere we go into a psych ward, into an insane asylum, but rather into a resort. And if you're interested in that, like I said, you can message me on Instagram and I'll send you the link for that Friday night hangout. And you can join us and you can see what we're all about. And you can see, wow, this is what actually people who care and are interested in bettering themselves for real and are interested in supporting others and helping other people out in the world. This is what that actually looks like. And so if you're interested in that, we're interested in meeting you. All right, that's all for today. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.